Our expedition on a Russian nuclear-powered icebreaker was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, combining a visit to the North Pole with a total solar eclipse. We arrived in Murmansk, home to the Russian nuclear fleet of icebreakers and navy vessels, so security was very tight. It took 2 hours for 3 officers to check our 106 passports. We endured another lengthy security check at the shipyard. The ship, named the 50 Years of Victory, is no luxury cruising ship. Our home for the 14-day expedition was in the first officer's cabin. At night, the settee was converted to be the extra bed. 20 years in the making, the 50 Years of Victory is the largest, most powerful icebreaker ever constructed. She is hired out for 6 weeks of the year, and we were among the first commercial passengers on her maiden voyage to the North Pole. Built to keep the North-East Passage open across the top of Russia, she guides ships through the channel. She has a 5-metre wide, double-layer stainless steel hull with a half-metre single skin of stainless steel at the bow. 50 Years of Victory has a U-shaped cutout at the front that shocks the ice to crack it, and she can break through ice up to 3 metres thick. The ship rides up on the ice and falls on it to crush it. If the ice is not thrust to the side, then there is a blade that cuts through the large chunks of ice as they pass under the ship. We could often hear the sudden bump when it cut through a large piece. Water bubbles are used as a lubricant to push the ice away from the ship. These water bubbles are also used as bow thrusters to manoeuvre the ship when in dock. There are blades at the back, called ice horn, for reverse ice breaking, and water can be moved between the front and the back of the ship to rock it free from hard ice. The ship has exceptional manoeuvrability and is steered by 3 screws, each with 4 fixed pitch blades on the drive shaft. 4 spares are carried on board, which can be replaced at sea by the crew of sea divers. The rear of the ship has a strange cutout, which is protected by a mix of metal and strong rope. Merchant ships don't have much manoeuvrability, so when the icebreaker is opening up a route through a thin channel, it will cup the merchant ship into its rear and steer it through the channel. Our tour of the ship was very interesting. The 50 Years of Victory is totally self-sufficient and creates its own electricity and drinking water. She can stay at sea for over 2 years without calling into port. She is driven by 2 nuclear reactors that produce 75,000 horsepower. Previous icebreakers have been 25,000 horsepower. In open water, the top speed can be as much as 21.4 knots. Taken through the window, this is one of the sets of nuclear reactors. The ship has an endurance of 4 to 5 years before she needs refuelling with new uranium. Safety is paramount. There are 86 Geiger counters on board, and the radiation levels are supposedly safer than walking down a busy city street. There are over 30 security cameras and many warning signs. Helicopters are on all icebreakers for reconnaissance, supply of food and goods, and staff transport. We flew on sightseeing trips during our passage at sea, whilst at the North Pole, and to transport us to the Franz Josef Islands. We broke through our first ice after 46 hours at sea. The landscape was very lunar-like, with flat areas of ice and snow, and lots of pressure ridges, where the currents break up the ice and then the ice sheets knock together. The light blue ice is older ice, where the air bubbles have been compressed out to leave the pure ice. The ship will always try to go across the weakest part of the ice, and it will go alongside an open channel instead of down it, as it would just bounce off either side and knock the ship, whereas opening a channel alongside would then push the broken ice into the open channel. However, ships do retrace their route back down the channels that they cut on the way to the North Pole, as it's easier, less bumpy, and more environmentally friendly. Icebergs are not very common, but the captain found this one and decided to push it along, much to the amusement of the passengers. It was the largest iceberg that we saw. We also saw fog bows, which are rainbows formed in foggy conditions when the sun is shining directly at the fog. There are no known amphibians or reptiles living in the Arctic tundra and wider polar region, but approximately 20 species of mammals live there, the most widely known being the polar bears. Interestingly, polar bears are actually more yellow than white. We watched as a mother and cubs was being tracked by a male bear. If he caught her, then he would kill the cubs. Polar bears spend much of their time in the water, hunting the fish that live under the ice. They can sense the seals under the ice, and we watched as this bear pounced on the seal hole to break the ice to get the seal. On Friday, 25th of July, we all assembled on deck for the countdown to our arrival at the North Pole. You can now all experience the last few minutes before we arrived at the North Pole. At 03:53 a.m. we celebrated our arrival with a glass of champagne. We had broken the record to get to the North Pole in the shortest time. Just 4 days instead of 7 taken by the other icebreaker, Yamal. It took a few hours to slowly wedge the ship into the ice, without breaking too much ice around the hull. It had to be safe for us to get off the ship. We all assembled in a circle and walked around the world. Everything in the world was south of us. Even the south wind blows from the south to the south. The ice at the North Pole is always moving. You can't plant a flag at the North Pole and expect it to remain at the North Pole, because the ice can drift up to 3 miles a day in a clockwise motion. From the time we parked the ship to the time we departed 24 hours later, the ice had drifted 3/4 of a mile southeast. When standing at the North Pole, the speed of rotation is quite slow, almost no speed at all, compared to 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. The blue is not open water, it is frozen ice which you can walk on, so you have to hope the ice is thick, as there are 14,000 feet of cold seawater below it. The sun shone the entire time that we were at the North Pole. It was about 30 degrees in the sky and moved at the same height around us during our 24-hour visit. We had very long shadows all day. We even had a fog bow. So what did we do at the North Pole, besides admiring the stunning scenery and taking photos of the ship? At lunchtime, a barbecue was enjoyed by all, and I just had to finish with an ice cream. I can't imagine many people have played golf at the North Pole. A few brave people took a quick dip at the stern of the ship. The ship's doctor was nearby with a defibrillator, just in case. And some people sunbathed on deck. In the afternoon we flew in the helicopter, which gave us a much wider view of the North Pole, and you can see the ship's track through the ice. I was mesmerised by the scenery. It was so magical, and the weather conditions so perfect. I knew that I would never ever see this again, so I had to savour every moment. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and sleep was not on my mind. This photo was taken at 3 a.m. in the morning. With the 24-hour sunshine, a full night's sleep was a problem. We visited 4 islands in Franz Josef Land, which is an archipelago of 191 islands, located in the far north of Russia, and it's largely uninhabited. It forms the most northerly group of islands in Europe and the whole of Eurasia, being only 550 statute miles from the North Pole. Access by ships is only possible for a few summer weeks and requires a special permit. The first polar station was established on Hooker Island on 29th of August 1929, but it closed in 1963. The plumbing system was very interesting. I'm not sure about going to the toilet here. Ziegler Island was used for filming the BBC Natural History Polar Bear Special. It's very sad that they left a lot of rubbish behind. Vegetation in the Arctic is limited to the grasses, mainly mosses, lichens, sedges and some flowering plants. Our last great excitement of the expedition was the total solar eclipse. We knew that we only had a 35% chance of sun for the eclipse. Having positioned our ship, the day started in fog which lifted to reveal cloud, although we could see the sun in the distance. We persuaded the captain to move the ship. The captain and his crew had never seen an eclipse and really didn't appreciate the importance of the event. So he went slowly at first, but under pressure from us eclipse chasers, he then went at full speed in a race against time to get to the bright patch of sky. We really were chasing the shadow, and the excitement on the ship was intense. Second contact was seen through a gap in the clouds. At this point, we wondered if we really would see the eclipse. We made it, and we stared in awe at the diamond ring. The full eclipse plunged us into darkness, the only 2 minutes 23 seconds of darkness on the whole of the trip. The temperature dropped from 10 to 4 degrees Celsius. The horizon was a mix of yellows and purples in a 360-degree sunset. During the eclipse we could see Venus and Mercury. Then came the second diamond ring, just as the cloud caught up with us. We had expected to eat Russian food, but were relieved to learn that Quark Expeditions had brought aboard their own Austrian catering team. The gourmet food was the best that we have had ever on any cruise or tour. I will share with you the experience of our dinner when breaking through the ice.
Yes, it's coming up.
I think one of your good devils second.
Our total distance travelled was over 2,700 nautical miles. Here's a coincidence. The eclipse occurred just off Novaya Zemlya, translated as Nova Island, in the Kara Sea, and my daughter is called Kara with a K. What an experience! An expedition on a Russian nuclear-powered icebreaker to the North Pole, and an exciting chase to see the total eclipse of the sun.